A cold wind brushed against Ethan's face as he drove down the empty road that night. The highway stretched for miles through dark countryside, lit only by the pale light of the moon. His old truck hummed softly, and the radio played a slow tune, but his mind was somewhere else. He had worked late at the garage, fixing cars all day, and was just hoping to reach home before midnight. The town was quiet this late, and this road was known for being lonely. But as his headlights curved around a bend, something caught his attention. A car stopped on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking fast, and a woman standing beside it, waving her hands in desperation. Ethan slowed down. At first, he thought about driving past. It was late, the road was empty, and he had heard stories about traps and robberies. But something about the woman made him stop. She looked scared, not dangerous. Her eyes were wide, her hands trembling. He could see tears shining in the dim light. He parked his truck a few feet behind her car and stepped out. The cold air hit him hard, and he zipped his jacket. "Are you okay, ma'am?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. The woman nodded quickly but looked around as if expecting someone to appear. "My tire, it burst," she said in a shaky voice. "I tried calling for help, but my phone died." Ethan glanced at the tire. It was flat and torn on one side. He nodded. "I can fix that for you," he said gently. "Just stay in the car, it's cold out here." But the woman didn't move. Instead, she looked over her shoulder again, her eyes scanning the road behind them. "Thank you," she whispered, "but please, please hurry." Ethan frowned. There was fear in her voice that didn't match the situation. He started working on the tire, using his flashlight and tools from the truck. As he knelt beside the car, he could feel her eyes on him. She kept checking the road again and again, biting her lip like she was waiting for someone, or running from them. The silence was heavy. Only the sound of his tools and the wind filled the night. Suddenly, a pair of headlights appeared far in the distance. The woman's face turned pale. "Is that them?" she muttered under her breath. Ethan looked up, confused. "Who?" he asked, but she didn't answer. The headlights slowed for a moment, then sped away into the night. The woman exhaled, trembling. "Please," she said, "don't tell anyone you saw me tonight." Ethan froze for a second, trying to understand. "What do you mean?" he asked softly. But she didn't explain. She just stood there, eyes full of fear and secrets. Ethan finished changing the tire as quickly as he could. When he stood up, his hands were cold and dirty. "There you go," he said, forcing a small smile. "You should be good to go now." The woman gave a faint smile, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're a kind man. Just be careful." Then she got into her car, started the engine, and drove away into the dark road, her red taillights fading like a ghost disappearing into the fog. Ethan stood there for a moment, confused and uneasy. Something about her words stayed with him. Be careful. Why would she say that? He packed his tools, got back in his truck, and started driving home, but his mind couldn't rest. He kept thinking about her frightened face, her constant glances over her shoulder, and the strange warning she left behind. The night felt colder now. Every time a car passed him, he felt a strange tension in his chest. When he finally reached his small house at the edge of town, he parked his truck and sat quietly for a minute. The street was empty, silent. He stepped inside, hung his jacket, and tried to shake off the unease. Maybe she was just nervous. Maybe it was nothing. But that night, sleep didn't come easy. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing the wind whisper through the window. At one point, he thought he heard a car outside, the faint sound of tires rolling slowly on the gravel. He got up, walked to the window, and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Just darkness. Maybe his mind was playing tricks. He went back to bed, but the woman's voice echoed in his head, "Please, don't tell anyone you saw me." Who was she hiding from? What was she running away from? By the time the first light of morning touched the sky, Ethan's eyes were still open. He made himself some coffee and tried to laugh at his own imagination. He told himself it was just a strange encounter, nothing more. But deep down, he felt that something wasn't right. The woman wasn't just scared, she was terrified of someone. And somehow, Ethan had stepped into her story without even knowing it. As he sipped his coffee, a soft sound made him freeze. It came from outside, an engine starting, slow and deep. He walked to the window and pulled the curtains slightly. Across the street, a black SUV sat parked quietly. Its windows were tinted, the engine humming. Ethan squinted, trying to see who was inside, but the glass was too dark. A chill ran down his spine. The SUV didn't move. It just stayed there, facing his house, silent and watching. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. He remembered the woman's fear, the headlights on the road, her warning. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe not. He stood there for a long moment, the coffee cooling in his hand, his thoughts racing. Who were they? Why were they outside his house? And most importantly, what had that woman gotten him into? The longer he stared, the more certain he felt, whatever had scared her that night hadn't ended. It had only just begun, and now, it had found its way to his doorstep. Ethan woke up with a strange feeling the next morning. He hadn't slept much, his mind kept replaying the image of that black SUV parked outside his house. When he looked out the window now, the SUV was gone, but the uneasy feeling stayed. He made coffee, trying to shake off the worry. Maybe it was just someone who got lost, he thought. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. The timing was too strange. He had helped that woman last night, and the very next morning, a black SUV appeared outside his home. Things like that didn't happen for no reason. The day passed slowly. Ethan worked in his small garage, fixing cars as usual, but his mind wasn't there. Every time a dark vehicle drove past, he found himself glancing up. The woman's frightened eyes kept flashing in his memory. Her trembling voice. Her warning. Don't tell anyone you saw me. What had she meant by that? Why was she so afraid? By afternoon, Ethan was starting to convince himself that it was just coincidence. Maybe the woman had some personal problem. Maybe she had been scared of an ex or something. He told himself it wasn't his problem. But fate had other plans. As the clock hit 3 p.m., his phone rang. The number was unknown. Ethan almost didn't answer, but something inside told him to. He pressed the button and lifted the phone to his ear. "Hello?" he said. There was a moment of silence, just quiet breathing on the other end. "Mr. Ethan Ward," a calm male voice finally spoke. Ethan frowned. "Yes, who's this?" The man didn't introduce himself. His voice was slow and steady, almost emotionless. "We'd like to ask you a few questions about a woman you met last night." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "What woman?" he asked carefully, pretending not to understand. "The one with the broken tire," the voice replied. "We know you stopped to help her." Ethan froze. How could they possibly know that? He hadn't told anyone. His mind started spinning. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Are you the police?" The man ignored the question. "Did she tell you anything?" he asked. "Anything at all?" Ethan hesitated. "No. She didn't say much. She just needed help." The voice was silent for a moment, and then the man said, "If she contacts you again, you must tell us immediately." Before Ethan could ask another question, the line went dead. He stared at his phone, heart pounding. His hands were slightly shaking. Who were these people? How did they get his number? And how did they know about last night? The more he thought about it, the more something felt wrong. If they were police, why didn't they say so? Why call from a hidden number? He checked his phone again, no caller ID, no way to trace it. He put it down, trying to calm himself, but the silence in his workshop felt heavier now. A few minutes later, he heard a soft noise outside, like a car door closing. He stepped out and saw a black SUV turning the corner at the end of the street. It slowed for a second, then disappeared. His stomach twisted. The same SUV. They were watching him. But why? That night, Ethan sat in his living room, the lights off, just watching through the window. Every car light that passed made his heart jump. His phone sat on the table, silent, but he kept glancing at it. Then, at 9:42 p.m., it rang again, the same unknown number. He picked it up slowly. Hello? This time, no one spoke. Just a faint sound, like wind blowing through the phone. Who is this? He said louder, his voice unsteady. Then, quietly, a woman's voice came through. Ethan, they found me. His blood ran cold. It was her. The woman from the road. Where are you? He asked, standing up quickly. Are you okay? There was a long pause. I can't talk, she whispered. They're listening. Don't trust anyone. The line went dead again. Ethan stared at the phone in disbelief. His heart thudded in his chest, his palms sweaty. None of this made sense. What had he stepped into? He sat down, breathing hard, replaying her words in his mind. They're listening. Don't trust anyone. He checked his door locks, looked out the window again, and saw movement in the distance. A dark shape. The same black SUV. It was parked under a streetlight now, and for the first time, Ethan saw a person step out. A tall man in a dark coat, standing beside the vehicle, looking directly at his house. The man didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Ethan backed away from the window, his chest tight. He didn't know what these people wanted, but it was clear now, this wasn't just about helping someone change a tire. He had stumbled into something much darker. He sat there in the dim light, fear mixing with confusion. He thought about calling the police, but what would he even say? That a strange woman warned him not to talk, and now men in black SUVs were watching him? It sounded crazy. Still, he couldn't ignore the truth, someone was out there, and they knew his name, his address, and his every move. Outside, the engine of the SUV roared softly, then faded as it drove away into the night. But Ethan knew it would be back. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. It was only beginning, and now he was caught right in the middle of it, whether he liked it or not. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling as if his life had shifted overnight. He sat on the edge of his bed, running a hand through his hair, trying to convince himself that the night before had just been a bad dream. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. The woman's terrified whisper, the strange call, the black SUV, they were all real. He walked to the window and slowly pulled the curtain aside. The street looked calm, quiet, and empty. No SUV. No strangers. Still, the silence felt wrong, almost too perfect, as if the world was holding its breath. He made himself some coffee, though his hands trembled as he poured it. The mug warmed his palms, but it didn't calm his nerves. Every sound, the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floor, made him flinch. His thoughts kept circling around one thing: who was that woman? What was she running from? And why were those men so interested in her, and in him? He decided to distract himself, so he turned on the TV. The morning news anchor's voice filled the room, and for a moment, he felt normal again. But then, something on the screen froze him in place. The headline read, "Young woman missing after mysterious disappearance on Highway 47. Ethan's eyes widened. He turned up the volume. The reporter spoke clearly, her tone serious. Local authorities are searching for 29-year-old Maya Collins, last seen last night near Highway 47 after her car broke down. Police say she may be in danger. The picture that appeared next made Ethan's heart stop. It was her. The same woman he had helped. The same woman who told him not to tell anyone. Her name was Maya. He sank onto the couch, his mind racing. He had been the last person to see her. The news continued, mentioning that her abandoned car had been found a few miles away, but there was no sign of her. Ethan's hands shook as he picked up his phone. For a moment, he thought about calling the police to tell them what he knew. But then, the memory of that unknown caller came back, the calm voice warning him, "If she contacts you again, tell us immediately." What if the same people watching him were pretending to be the police? What if they were the reason she disappeared? He put the phone down and leaned back, feeling trapped. His instinct screamed that he was being watched, even though he couldn't see anyone. Hours passed, and Ethan barely moved. He couldn't focus on work, couldn't think straight. Around noon, someone knocked on his door, 3 soft taps. He froze. The knock came again, quiet but steady. He walked slowly toward the door, every step heavy. When he opened it, there was no one there. Only an envelope lying on the porch. He looked around, nothing. The street was empty. Heart pounding, he picked up the envelope and stepped back inside, locking the door behind him. The envelope was plain, no name, no address. His fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside, there was a single photograph, and when he saw it, his breath caught. It was a picture of him, taken the night he helped Maya. He was crouched beside her car, changing the tire. The photo was taken from across the road, in the dark. Someone had been there, watching them both. Ethan dropped the photo onto the table, his mind spinning. Who took it? The people in the SUV? Were they following Maya? Or was he the one they were after now? He felt a chill crawl up his spine as he stared at the image. His own face looked unaware, almost peaceful, but behind him, in the shadows, he could just barely make out a faint figure standing near the trees. He hadn't seen that person that night. He hadn't even known anyone else was there. He grabbed the photo again, studying it under the light, trying to see more details. The figure was blurry, but one thing was clear: whoever it was had been watching closely. His phone buzzed, making him jump. It was a text message from an unknown number. "We warned you not to get involved." That was all it said. Ethan's pulse hammered in his chest. He looked out the window again, but the street was empty. He locked every door, pulled the curtains tight, and turned off the lights. His house suddenly felt like a cage, every shadow whispering danger. He sat in the dark, staring at the message on his phone. He wanted to believe this was just some sick prank, but deep down, he knew better. He thought about Maya again, how scared she had been, how she kept looking behind her, as if she knew someone was following her. She had said they found her. And now they had found him too. The rest of the day passed in uneasy silence. By evening, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He decided to drive out to the highway again, to the same place where he had met her. Maybe he'd find something the police hadn't. Maybe he just needed proof that all this was real. As the sun disappeared behind the hills, he grabbed his jacket and keys, his mind made up. He didn't know what he was walking into, but he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't just sit here and wait for the next knock on his door. Outside, the cold night air stung his face as he started his truck. The road ahead was dark and silent, the same lonely stretch where it had all begun. Ethan's headlights cut through the darkness as he drove, his heart heavy with fear and determination. He didn't know it yet, but what he would find on that road would change everything, and bring him face to face with the truth he was never meant to uncover. Ethan's truck rumbled down the quiet highway, the same stretch of road where everything had begun. The air was heavy, colder than usual, and the moon hung low behind the clouds. He kept glancing at the spot where he had helped Maya that night. The memory felt so vivid, the flickering hazard lights, her trembling hands, her voice whispering, "Don't tell anyone you saw me." He slowed down, parked his truck by the roadside, and stepped out. The world was silent except for the soft whistle of the wind. He turned on his flashlight and scanned the ground. Tire marks still stained the dirt, faint but there. He followed them slowly, his boots crunching on gravel. Something inside him told him he wasn't alone. A few feet away, something shiny caught the beam of his flashlight. He walked closer and found a phone, cracked, dusty, and half buried in mud. Ethan picked it up and wiped the screen. It was dead. But when he turned it over, his heart nearly stopped. The phone case had a small flower sticker on it, the same one Maya's phone had when she called him that night. He felt a chill rush through him. This was hers. She had been here again, maybe after he left. Maybe while those people were following her. Ethan slipped the phone into his jacket pocket, planning to charge it later, but before he could take another step, a sudden sound broke the silence, the low growl of an engine. He froze. The sound grew louder, closer. He turned off his flashlight and ducked behind his truck, his heart pounding. Within seconds, headlights appeared on the horizon, bright and blinding. A black SUV rolled into view and stopped right where Maya's car had been that night. The same SUV. Ethan held his breath, crouching lower. Two men stepped out, both wearing dark coats. Their movements were calm, practiced, almost military. One of them held a flashlight, sweeping it across the road, the trees, the ground. "She must have dropped it somewhere here," one of them said in a firm voice. Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears. They were looking for the phone, the same one now in his pocket. He tried not to move, not to make a sound. The men walked closer, their boots crunching on gravel. "If someone found it," the other man said, "we'll know soon." The beam of light passed dangerously close to Ethan's hiding spot. He pressed his back against the truck, barely breathing. For a few tense seconds, he thought they had seen him, but then the man turned away. They searched a few more minutes, muttering quietly, before getting back into the SUV. The engine started again, and they drove off slowly, disappearing into the distance. Ethan stayed hidden until the sound faded completely. When he finally stood up, his knees felt weak. He took a deep breath and looked down the road. He knew one thing for sure now, Maya hadn't been imagining things. Someone really was after her. And now, since he had the phone, they'd be after him too. He got back into his truck and started driving home, every nerve in his body alert. His headlights stretched across the dark road, and every car behind him made him tighten his grip on the steering wheel. When he reached his house, he parked quickly and rushed inside, locking every door and window. He plugged the broken phone into a charger, hoping it would still turn on. For a while, nothing happened. Then, just as he was about to give up, the screen flickered weakly and came to life. The wallpaper showed a picture of Maya smiling beside a little girl, maybe her sister or daughter. Ethan's heart sank. She didn't look like someone who deserved to be hunted. He checked the phone gallery and found one video file saved separately, marked with today's date. He tapped it open. The screen showed shaky footage. Maya's face appeared in the frame, her eyes red and filled with tears. She was speaking in a whisper, looking straight into the camera. "If anyone finds this," she said, "please tell them I tried to run. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. They found me once already, and they'll find me again." Her voice cracked as she looked behind her. "Ethan, if you're watching this, please don't trust anyone, not even the police. They work for them." The video ended abruptly. Ethan sat frozen, staring at the phone. She had recorded this for him. She knew he might come back. Before he could process what he'd seen, a loud knock echoed through his house, sharp, sudden, and hard. His blood went cold. It was past midnight. He slowly turned off the phone and set it down. The knock came again, louder this time. "Mr. Ward," a deep voice called from outside, "we just need to ask you a few questions." Ethan's heart raced. The voice was calm, too calm, just like the one on the phone before. He didn't move. He didn't answer. He walked silently to the window and pulled the curtain just enough to see. Outside, two men stood near the porch, the same dark coats, the same black SUV parked across the street. One of them looked straight at the window as if he could sense Ethan watching. "Open the door, sir," the man said firmly. "This won't take long." Ethan backed away from the window, fear crawling up his spine. They knew where he lived. They were right outside. His mind raced. Should he call the police? Run out the back door? Stay silent? Another knock made the walls shake. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to think. Then, slowly, he picked up the phone again. The screen was still glowing, showing Maya's final image. Her last words echoed in his head, "Don't trust anyone." Ethan realized he couldn't open the door. Whatever those men wanted, it wasn't to help him. It was to make sure Maya's secret never got out, and now he was the only one who had it. He turned off the lights, slipped quietly toward the back door, and stepped into the cold night. Behind him, the knocking turned to pounding, then silence. As he disappeared into the shadows, the phone buzzed in his pocket. Another unknown message had arrived. He glanced at the screen. It said only one chilling line: "You shouldn't have gone back to that road." The night swallowed Ethan as he hurried down the narrow alley behind his house. The cold air stung his face, and the only light came from a flickering street lamp at the corner. He didn't dare look back, but he could hear faint footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. They were following him. He ducked behind a trash bin and pressed his back against the wall, breathing as quietly as possible. His phone buzzed again in his pocket, but he didn't check it. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, the footsteps faded into silence. He peeked out. The street was empty. The black SUV was gone, but he knew it wouldn't stay gone for long. Ethan moved quickly, staying close to the shadows until he reached an old gas station a few blocks away. The lights were dim, and an older man sat inside the kiosk, half asleep. Ethan stepped inside and asked if he could use the payphone. "Sure," the man said without looking up. Ethan dialed a number he hadn't used in years, his old friend, Mark, who worked part-time with the county police. When Mark answered, Ethan's voice trembled slightly. "Mark, it's me, Ethan. I need your help." Mark's voice perked up, tired but friendly. "Ethan? What's wrong? You sound shaken." Ethan hesitated, unsure how much to say. "I found something. A woman, she's missing. I think someone's after her, and maybe me too." Mark frowned through the line. "Slow down. What woman?" Ethan explained everything: the night on the highway, the black SUV, the phone, and the video message. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Mark said quietly, "Ethan, you need to get out of your house. Don't go back there. Stay somewhere safe. I'll check what I can." Ethan's throat felt dry. "So it's real?" he asked. "Those men, they're not police, are they?" Mark sighed. "No. I don't know who they are, but I've heard rumors, private security, maybe hired by someone powerful. If they're after that woman, it's serious." He promised to call back after running a few searches. Ethan thanked him and hung up. He turned toward the gas station window, looking out at the quiet road. He felt exposed. Alone. He needed to move again. He got back in his truck and started driving aimlessly through the dark streets, trying to think. His mind was racing with questions. Who was Maya hiding from? What secret did she know? And what was on that phone that made her say don't trust anyone? He needed answers. He pulled over near an empty parking lot and took out the phone again. Its battery was low, but he managed to open the video gallery. Most of the files were corrupted or deleted, but one short clip had a strange name, theywatchus.mp4. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then tapped play. The footage was blurry and shaky, recorded at night inside what looked like an office. Maya's voice was whispering. "They're watching everyone," she said, pointing the camera at a wall covered with photos, documents, and maps. "They use fake IDs, government seals, even the police don't know who they really work for. They control everything." Ethan felt chills run down his spine. Maya turned the camera toward herself. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it. Please, don't let them find this phone." The clip ended abruptly, followed by static. Ethan sat frozen, his pulse hammering in his ears. Whatever she had uncovered wasn't small, it was something massive, dangerous, something people would kill to hide. His hands were trembling when he put the phone down. Just then, headlights appeared in his rearview mirror. A black SUV. He didn't think, he slammed the accelerator, the tires screeching as he sped down the road. The SUV followed, closing in fast. His heart pounded as he took sharp turns, trying to lose them through side streets. The city lights blurred past. He could hear the engine behind him grow louder, relentless. He turned into a narrow road between warehouses and switched off his headlights, trying to vanish into the dark. The SUV slowed near the entrance, its lights sweeping across the buildings. Ethan crouched low in the driver's seat, barely breathing. For a tense minute, the vehicle lingered, then slowly drove away. Ethan waited another full minute before exhaling. His hands shook on the steering wheel. He knew this wasn't over, they were hunting him now, and they wouldn't stop until they got the phone. When the danger passed, he pulled out his phone again. There was a missed call from Mark. Ethan quickly called back. "Mark, did you find anything?" Mark's voice was low. "Yes, and you're in trouble, Ethan. The woman you helped, Maya Collins, wasn't just a random person. She was a whistleblower working with the FBI. She had evidence of corruption inside a major corporation, people with a lot of power. She disappeared before the FBI could protect her." Ethan's breath caught. "So those men," Mark finished his sentence for him. "They work for the same company she exposed. And if they know you have her phone, you're next on their list." Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes wide. Everything made sense now, the warning, the fear, the SUV. He had something they couldn't afford to lose. "What do I do, Mark?" he asked. Mark hesitated, then said, "I know someone you can trust. A journalist. She's been following Maya's case. Meet her tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., at the old train station outside town. Don't tell anyone. Don't use your phone. And for God's sake, stay hidden." Ethan nodded, even though Mark couldn't see him. "I'll be there." When he hung up, he sat in silence for a moment, staring at the dark road ahead. He could hear the wind howling softly outside, but his mind was already set. He wasn't going to run forever. If Maya risked her life to expose the truth, he couldn't just hide. He had to finish what she started, even if it meant putting himself in danger. He leaned back, exhausted but determined, unaware that a black SUV had stopped 2 blocks away, its headlights off. Inside, 2 figures watched his truck through binoculars, one of them speaking quietly into a radio. "Target located," the man said. "He has the phone." The response crackled faintly through the radio, "Don't lose him again." Ethan barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw headlights flashing through the dark or heard Maya's trembling voice warning him not to trust anyone. The phone with her final message lay on the passenger seat beside him as he sat hidden in an abandoned parking lot, waiting for the first light of morning. His body ached, his mind racing. The world outside was quiet, but inside, his thoughts were loud, full of fear, guilt, and questions. How had a simple act of kindness turned into this? When dawn finally broke, he started his truck and drove toward the old train station outside town, the meeting place Mark had told him about. The road was empty, the air thick with fog. Every few seconds, Ethan checked his rearview mirror, half expecting to see the black SUV again. But for once, the road stayed clear. Still, he didn't relax. He knew better now. Danger didn't always show itself right away. The train station came into view, quiet and forgotten. The paint on the walls had peeled, the platform was cracked, and weeds grew through the tracks. Ethan parked a short distance away, near an old shed, and waited. The cold wind rustled through the trees. He checked his watch, 8:47 a.m. He was early. He scanned the area carefully, trying to see any movement. Then, at exactly 9 o'clock, a small blue car pulled up on the other side of the lot. A woman stepped out, wearing a gray coat and dark glasses. She looked around cautiously before walking toward him. "Ethan Ward?" she asked in a quiet, steady voice. He nodded, still tense. "I'm Claire. Mark sent me." She held out her hand, but Ethan hesitated. She smiled faintly, understanding his suspicion. "Don't worry, I'm not one of them," she said. "I'm an investigative journalist. I was working with Maya before she disappeared." Her words hit him like a wave. "You knew her?" Ethan asked. Claire nodded. "Yes." She was scared but brave. She found something big: files, names, accounts. She was planning to go public with it. But before she could, they found her. Claire looked at Ethan carefully. "Mark said you have her phone." Ethan nodded slowly. "It's here. But I think they know I have it. They've been following me." He handed her the phone. Claire took it carefully, as if holding something sacred. She turned it on, and when the home screen appeared, her eyes widened. "These files could expose everything," she whispered. "If we can decrypt them, we can finally prove what she was trying to say." She looked at Ethan again. "You did the right thing coming here." But before Ethan could answer, the sound of an engine shattered the quiet morning. He froze. Claire's eyes widened. A black SUV rolled into the station yard, its tires grinding over gravel. "They found us," Ethan muttered. Claire grabbed his arm. "This way," she said urgently. They ran behind the old station building as the SUV doors slammed open. Two men jumped out, scanning the area with weapons drawn. "Split up," one of them ordered. Ethan and Claire ducked behind a stack of wooden crates. Ethan's heart hammered so loud he thought they'd hear it. Claire pulled a small flash drive from her pocket. "If we don't make it," she whispered, "I'll send these files to a secure network. But I need a few minutes." She started transferring data from Maya's phone to the drive using her laptop. The footsteps grew louder. The men were close now. Ethan looked around and saw an old maintenance tunnel entrance a few feet away, half covered by debris. "There," he whispered. Claire nodded, still typing fast. "Almost done, just 30 seconds." The SUV's headlights flashed through the cracks in the wall. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Claire, we don't have 30 seconds. She looked at him, eyes full of fear and determination. "If we leave now, Maya's story dies with us." Ethan hesitated, then crouched beside her, ready to fight if needed. The men's voices echoed nearby. "They're here somewhere," one shouted. Just then, Claire's laptop beeped, "Transfer complete." She yanked the flash drive out and shoved it into her pocket. "Let's move." Ethan pulled her toward the tunnel. They slipped inside just as one of the men rounded the corner. A gunshot echoed, hitting the wall behind them. Dust and splinters flew. Claire gasped, but Ethan pulled her deeper into the darkness. The tunnel was cold and narrow, stretching beneath the station. Their footsteps splashed through shallow puddles as they ran. Behind them, the echo of boots followed, closer, faster. "Keep going," Ethan urged. They reached a metal door at the far end and pushed it open, stumbling out into the forest beyond the station. The light blinded them for a moment. They kept running until they reached a small clearing. Finally, they stopped, gasping for air. Claire leaned against a tree, clutching the flash drive tightly. "We have what we need," she said between breaths. "We just need to get this to the press before they find us again." Ethan nodded, still looking around. "Where do we go now?" She looked at him with tired eyes but a spark of hope. "There's a safe house about an hour from here. Mark knows the location. If we can make it there, we can upload everything." Ethan nodded again, determination replacing his fear. "Then we go now." As they started walking deeper into the forest, the sound of distant engines roared faintly behind them. The hunt wasn't over, but now, for the first time, Ethan wasn't just running. He had a purpose. He was part of something bigger, something Maya had died trying to finish. He looked at Claire and said quietly, "We'll make sure her story is told." Claire glanced at him and nodded. "Yes," she said. "We will." But neither of them noticed the small red dot blinking on the back of Ethan's truck parked near the train station, a tracker flashing silently in the morning light, sending their location to the men who would stop at nothing to find them. The forest was silent except for the crunch of dry leaves under Ethan's boots. The sun had begun to rise higher, breaking through the fog and painting everything in pale gold. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. He knew they were being hunted. Every sound, a snapping branch, a rustling leaf, made his pulse quicken. Claire walked beside him, gripping the flash drive in her pocket like her life depended on it. In a way, it did. They'd been walking for nearly an hour when Ethan noticed the road ahead. It was old and cracked, cutting through the forest toward a group of rundown cabins. "Is that the safe house?" he asked quietly. Claire nodded, scanning the area. "Yes. Mark arranged it. Nobody knows about this place, not even the police." That was comforting and terrifying at the same time. They hurried down the road, their breath visible in the cold morning air. The cabin was small, hidden between thick pine trees. Its wooden walls were weathered, but smoke curled gently from the chimney. Someone had been there recently. Ethan tensed, but Claire shook her head. "It's fine. Mark said one of his contacts would be waiting." She knocked twice, paused, then once more. The door opened slightly, and a tall man in his 40s appeared. His face was lined with worry, but his eyes were kind. "You must be Claire," he said. "I'm Daniel." Inside, the air smelled of coffee and pine. Maps, radios, and computer equipment covered the table. Daniel motioned for them to sit. "Mark filled me in," he said. "You've got something dangerous and powerful." Claire handed him the flash drive. "This holds everything Maya found. We need to upload it to a secure press network before they get to us." Daniel nodded. "I can help with that. But we have to move fast. Once it's online, they'll know." He connected the flash drive to his laptop and began transferring files. The screen filled with folders, documents, and photos, names, emails, payments, even classified memos. Ethan leaned forward. "What is all this?" Daniel sighed. "Proof. They've been funding illegal surveillance programs, controlling politicians, and silencing anyone who gets too close." Claire looked pale. "That's why Maya was killed," she whispered. Just as Daniel started encrypting the upload, the cabin's lights flickered, once, twice, then went out. The laptop screen glitched. Ethan froze. "What was that?" Daniel's eyes widened. "They've found us." A second later, the rumble of engines echoed outside. The black SUVs had arrived. Claire gasped. "They must have tracked your truck." Ethan's stomach dropped, the tracker. He hadn't noticed it. "Grab the files!" Daniel shouted, pulling a small drive from the laptop. "The upload's halfway done, I'll finish it manually." Ethan moved to the window and saw figures in dark gear surrounding the cabin. "We're out of time," he said. "They're closing in." Daniel handed Claire the drive. Take this and go through the back tunnel. It leads to the woods. I'll hold them off. Claire shook her head. You can't stay, go, he barked. If this doesn't go public, Maya died for nothing. Ethan grabbed Claire's hand and pulled her toward the back door. As they escaped through the narrow passage, gunfire erupted outside. Wood splintered, glass shattered, and Daniel's voice echoed once, then was silenced. Claire bit her lip, tears welling, but she kept running. The tunnel opened into the forest again. They sprinted through the trees, the sound of footsteps and shouting behind them. After several minutes, they reached a riverbank. Ethan stopped, panting. We can't just keep running forever, he said. Claire nodded, catching her breath. No, we don't have to. She pulled out her phone and connected the flash drive. Daniel's upload was almost done, I can finish it from here. She tapped rapidly, bypassing warnings, encrypting the signal. The progress bar crawled slowly upward, 70%. 82%. 95%. Suddenly, a bullet hit the ground near them. They ducked behind a fallen tree. The men were getting closer. Hurry! Ethan shouted. Claire's fingers shook as she hit the final command. The bar flashed green, upload complete. She exhaled sharply. It's done. The files are live, every news network has them. Ethan smiled weakly. Then we did it. A moment later, sirens wailed in the distance. Real police, not imposters. The sound grew louder as several cars raced down the nearby road. The men in black turned and ran, realizing it was over. Claire dropped to her knees, exhausted. Ethan sat beside her, both of them breathing heavily, the morning sun shining through the trees. News of the leak spread within hours. Across the country, headlines flashed, major corporate conspiracy exposed by whistleblowers' hidden files. The people behind the cover-up were arrested, and Maya's name filled the news, the woman who risked everything for the truth. A few days later, Ethan stood at a quiet memorial where Maya's picture rested beside a single white rose. Claire joined him, holding a folded newspaper. She did it, she said softly. You helped make sure her voice wasn't lost. Ethan looked at the photo, Maya smiling, full of life, and whispered, she just needed someone to listen. As they walked away, a cool breeze swept through the trees, carrying the feeling of closure, but also a reminder. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything, and sometimes, helping a stranger can uncover truths the world was never meant to see. Yet, far away in a dimly lit office, a man watched the breaking news on a screen. His face was hidden in the shadows. He turned to his assistant and said coldly, "They think it's over." "It's not." The screen went black, leaving one final question lingering in the air. Was the truth really safe, or had Ethan just awakened something even bigger?